Brian, thank you for coming out. We appreciate your time. And also thank you for letting us use the Laurel here. Pretty beautiful building. So
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to have you guys here. This is actually 1909 Rittenhouse. So the building itself is called the Laurel. But it's a 2-component building, actually a 3-component building. We've got 40,000 square foot of retail, 184 apartments, which we brand as 1909 Rittenhouse. And then we have the Laurel, which is situated on top of the apartments.
So is the Laurel technically just the condos?
Yes. The Laurel is the for sale, purchase condos.
So we're in the amenity space for the apartments.
Correct.
Nice.
What was the thought process behind splitting that up?
So if you're buying a $25 million penthouse, you don't want to be in the same building with somebody that's paying $3,000 a month for rent.
Right.
$3,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But still, when you're, the exclusivity of, having the, a penthouse purchase is sort of would be retracted. So we wanted to maximize the location by having, it just made sense to have 2 components. If we've got like 600,000 square feet of space here, and I always like to tell people the magic number for condos for me is 60, because there's 3 different types of buyers really. There's the visionaries, the guys that can buy years in advance, that are know what they're going to do, and they've done it before. There's the folks that can buy sort of during construction, but they can walk a unit, they can get a better feel, they can see the views, they want that kind of comfort. And then there's the folks that it's got to be 100% done. So if you think about 20% pre-sale, visionary buyers, and then another 30 or 40% are the guys that need to walk the space. So if you have more than that, you end up with, the project done, and you've got, 50 to 80, unsold units that you've got to deliver. And that's the biggest risk in the condo project, is the subsidy of the condo association, because the building's done, you got people moving in, you got 80, 90 vacant units that you've got to pay the condo fees on, you got to pay the utility bills on, you got to clean them.
So until it's fully sold out, you're just saying
like somebody's paying for it. It's us.
Right.
It's built. We're paying the interest on the construction costs. We're paying the utility fees. We're paying the condo fees. And it doesn't matter in a building like this how many residents you have in. You've got to, if you have one resident in, you still have to have the concierge. You still have to have the car service. You've got to have all the amenities that go with it. So it just made sense.
Totally. So is that the idea behind splitting it between condos and apartments then, is to sort of subsidize the condos with the apartments until the condos are fully sold?
No, this is a big asset. So if we would have just done condos, it would have been a very risky project. The other component that we could have done was a hotel, but a hotel, in Philadelphia is pretty tricky. This building is like on basically oceanfront properties, like what we like to say. The Rittenhouse Sq is right there.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah, it's an oceanfront property, and
that's funny.
Once you have an opportunity to develop an iconic location like this, you also want to own part of it forever.
Totally.
Sure.
So
totally.
Walk us back through that then. Like, how was the acquisition, and what was the kind of story behind that?
I think we've only got an hour here. So long story short, years ago, this site used to be a movie theater, and there was a fire in the theater. It burned down, and the theater sold the asset to the Philadelphia Parking Authority. The parking authority had this brilliant idea of building an above grade parking garage, and the neighbors said, no freaking way. And, they went through a couple of years of entitlements and fighting, and finally the parking authority gave up and said, you know what, okay, we're going to sell the asset. And at that point, I think it was like 2006, 2007.
Oh my God.
I
did not expect to go back.
Yeah, it's a long, it's been a long time. So during that time, they went through this the parking authority went through a bidding process because, it's right on Rittenhouse Square. They knew it was a very coveted piece of property, and every major developer in Philadelphia was bidding on this project. And at that point, the winning bidder was a company out of, it's an Irish-based company, a company based out of Ireland, and their bid was way over everybody else's. And the parking authority took it. The guys are super nice guys. They thought they could meet with the neighborhood, and the neighborhood would allow them to build whatever they wanted. They could get the property upzoned. And again, the neighborhood said, no way. We want something nice that fits the character of the building.
And was that their first project in Philadelphia? So like they just didn't know what they were getting into with the RCO?
Yeah, they had no idea.
Yeah.
They were primarily an industrial developer. So it was their first residential project that they came in, and they're like, we've got this iconic location. They were going to build a hotel condo project, which would have killed it. But what happened is they ran into a lot of problems with the neighbors. And then what happened in 2007, 2008, the financial crisis, the markets crashed. All of a sudden, like they had a loan on the project on the land with the Anglo-Irish Bank, and that bank went into receivership.
Oh, geez.
So there was like 6 years where this project was just basically locked up in purgatory.
So they had already owned it. They weren't like,
no, they paid cash.
Zoning.
No.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of McCann Irish oatmeal?
No.
Steel cut Irish oatmeal. Well, the guy that bought the property was a guy named John McCann, and his family was the owners of the project.
So then at that point, they just decided to get rid of it. They were done with the project.
Yeah, they were
ran
just
back to industrial after that.
Yeah, they
you
were
couldn't
just
sell it in 2008, right? Something like this.
Yeah, but you got to remember, they paid a lot of money for it.
Right.
So like what they wanted for it, nobody else was willing to pay.
Right.
So Southern Land had developed another project in University City called 3601 Market, and Tim Downey, our CEO, is one of those guys that he's memorable. He's unlike any other developer. You trust him. He's charismatic. He's thoughtful, and everybody was flying to Ireland to meet with John. Every developer, around the area, and they were trying to work a deal with John, and Tim actually got it done. So it took years. I think it was 2015 by the time we actually got the project purchased, and it took us 3 more years to actually get the entitlements. So we worked with the neighborhood association and all the nearby neighbors for 3 years in order to get the permits in order to develop the project.
So hold on, do I have the timeline right? If you guys started negotiations around 2008.
No. So they bought it in 2008.
Got it. Okay.
We bought it in 2015.
Yeah.
But that took a couple years to get to that.
When did you start negotiations before you bought it? Do you know?
It was in 2015. It happened relatively quickly. It happened relatively quickly.
Got it. Yeah. So then you guys bought it, and then it took 3 years before you could even break ground.
No, it took 3 years in order to get the approvals.
Okay.
And, a permit.
Yeah.
Your entitlements are your permits, and the city wanted, or the neighborhood wanted, a lot of say in what we built and how it looked, and they hired their own architect to meet with our architect, and we were very thoughtful on the setbacks of the building, the facade, the materials, vehicle entrances, door entrances. They were really involved in the process.
How much of that is different than the original plan? Like what we see here today, how much of that was impacted meeting with the RCO?
Not that much, really.
Okay.
We had a very thoughtful plan, and we meet with them. We'd show them some of their changes. There are a couple changes, and that if we could do over again, we probably wouldn't agree to, just because it makes the project easier to manage and easier to execute. But it's a very big site. It's a very big site. When you think about the big L shape, we go from all the way from Rittenhouse Square at 19th and Walnut all the way to across Moravian Street, under Moravian Street, all the way to 20th and Sansom. So it's a big project.
Gotcha.
I didn't realize it went across. Moravian's the one directly behind this building.
Correct.
So then the parcel behind that on Sansom you own too.
Correct.
And what is that going to be? Or what is it?
So we have the first Equinox Fitness Center coming to Philadelphia. It's actually the first Equinox in the state of Pennsylvania. It's a 35,000 square foot state-of-the-art fitness center. It's going to be incredible.
Wow.
Their front entrance is on Walnut Street, on the ground floor, and then on the second floor, it actually goes from Walnut Street across Moravian all the way to Sansom Street, and then they've got a third floor.
Like a bridge?
Yes, it's a bridge. We
Oh,
bridge
wow.
the street below and above the
Wow.
ground.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by iFund Cities, a direct alternative lender with national reach who always does whatever it takes to get loans funded. I've personally used these guys myself, and I could say firsthand that they are one of the best lenders that we've worked with. IFC was started by a group of investors who know and understand the common pain points in lending. These guys know the building process inside and out and can anticipate your needs because of it, ensuring quick closing timelines, easy and efficient construction draws, and creative underwriting solutions. IFC prides itself on being the Swiss Army knife of the lending world by offering a wide variety of lending products, whether it's fix and flip, new construction, a rental loan. They're here to support your company's growth. IFC is a call away waiting to fund your next deal. You can visit them on Instagram at iFundCities, IFUNDCITIES, or their website, www.ifundcities.com.
And then on the third floor, we have their swimming pool. Inside, they have a 3-lane lap pool with a cold plunge and a hot tub. So,
Wow. And Equinox is going to be open to the public in addition to people in the apartment complex and the
correct.
condos?
Yeah. It's a public gym, fitness center. It's going to be a great amenity for the neighbors.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
that's great. Yeah. That's awesome.
So walk me back through when you were looking in 2015 and you guys were deciding about this area. Obviously, it's a one-of-a-kind location. What types of tests did you put in place to make sure you could build something like this and, if you build it, people come kind of thing? Like, what kind of tests did you guys have to make sure you were, going to hit those numbers?
Well, when you look around the square right now, there's no brand new product. So, we look at our comps. I mean, you look at your comps and you see, the Harper was a very great example. Pearl Properties did an amazing job with that, and their rents that they were receiving or expected to receive, even though it wasn't done. Jim and Reed have got a lot of comps in the neighborhood, but you look at what the competition's getting, and you make assumptions, and you run your performa, and then we ran our performa in a lot of different scenarios, all apartments. We ran it in a hotel, condominium, apartments, hotel, all hotel. I mean, you name any assumption or different scenario that you could run, and we looked at it. This is a $500 million development when it's all said and done, and
Wow.
you want to make sure that you're very thoughtful and know what the truest, highest, and best use is. And when you look at the condo sales in the neighborhood. Again, the last new construction building that was delivered was 10 Rittenhouse. So you look at what their condo assumptions are, and then you look at, okay, that was the building delivered 10 months ago. So 500 Walnut, it's the most recent, similar style building, ultra luxury condominium, and you look at what they were getting per square foot, and you say, okay, that was in Washington Square. If they were getting $2,000 a square foot in Washington Square, we should at least be able to get that in Rittenhouse Square. So,
So you sort of had stress tests then based on other things that are similar that sold but are not quite as nice, and that was sort of like your floor.
Yeah, when you look at it, when we do our comps, we're very thoughtful.
Yeah.
There's 3 components to the comp. One, the building itself. What's the height of the building? What's the building look like? What are the amenities for the building? How high are your ceilings? How what's your window type? Is it a modern building? And then you look at the neighborhood. Is it Rittenhouse Square versus Washington Square versus Northern Liberties versus University City? And you assign values to all that. And, the way I like to compare it is like if you have a condominium that's 1,000 square feet and, you've got it in Washington Square. If you take that same exact condo and move it to Rittenhouse Square, and everything's identical but the neighborhood. Finishes, height, building, what's the price delta? So if it's going to sell for $1 million $1 million in Washington Square, would it sell for $1.2 million in Rittenhouse? And that sort of percentage-wise gives you what you would perceive the neighborhood comp value to be.
And do you determine that delta based on looking at other asset types and then using the comparables in both, like Washington Square, for instance, versus Rittenhouse Sq?
Yes. Yeah. So we'll actually do a comp analysis. We'll look at units that have sold that are,
there's not many comps for this here. So like that was going to be my question, but basically you just go elsewhere.
Yeah, we went to Washington Square and we looked at 500 Walnut and they said, okay, they're getting $1,500 to $2,000 a foot. Then we looked at 10 Rittenhouse and we saw what they were getting and we made some assumptions.
Makes sense.
You look at our floor plan, we've got the only modern high rise. You look at every single one of our units has an outdoor space. So
really,
yeah. It's
pretty
pretty incredible.
wild.
Yeah, we'll take a walk after this, and
I was going to ask if we could do that.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
So, real quick, you said there's 3 components that you look for on a comp. So you said the location, the type of building, and then what's the third?
The unit itself.
Okay.
What are the finishes? What's the cabinet? What are the appliances? What's the window wall look like? How tall are the windows? What's the size of the bedrooms? What's the size of the bathrooms? What's the layout? I mean, there's a lot of great, apartments and great buildings around the square, but they're old. And when, you look at the older, you've got old outdated appliances, old outdated kitchens. The windows are what the windows are. They don't have floor to ceiling height windows. They've got 9-foot or 8-foot ceilings. They've got small closets. So you look at all of those things in the unit and then you make some assumptions and you establish a value on what ours will get as a premium. And
you guys dive in on a granular
it's
level.
very.
How long does your due diligence process take on something like this? I mean, you must have a team of analysts, I'm assuming, at this point.
We have a team of analysts, but when we bought this asset, it was, I think we closed in 90 days.
Wow.
But that's atypical. That's atypical. Typically what we do is, we get a property under contract, we have 90 days due diligence, and then we close upon approvals. So
that would have been 3 years in this case.
Was that hard?
But we didn't.
Financing and stuff for the deal? Was that hard to convince underwriters and other people that were involved in, the construction aspect of it, or
of this project or other projects?
This project itself.
You're saying just because they closed so quickly?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, actually, our investor here was a family office. They're in New York. They have they have a relationship with Penn. So he's on the board of directors. So
he knew what he was getting into.
He knew the area.
They knew the area.
They knew the area. They knew the value of the asset. So we had our partner locked up from basically day one on this.
One investor?
One investor.
Whew.
Yeah. One family office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Is most of the investment with Southern Land Company like institutional capital?
No. Actually, we started out that way, but we're pretty happy to say at this point we're self-funding most of our part of the equity.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's probably pretty unique.
Yeah, it is. But we started off like everybody else. You go to your friends and family, and then you gain some momentum and you do bigger projects. And we ended up having institutional capital on some projects, but you get to the point where you're successful and you prove those, and you're able to utilize the capital that you made on those projects in your future ones.
Going back to talking about Southern Land in general, can you talk a little bit about their business strategy from like an organization? So I know that they're in several areas around the country, but just talk about that a little bit and how they look at opportunities.
So we're the New York suburbs, Philadelphia. We have a project in Charleston, South Carolina, a project in North Carolina. We're looking at opportunities in Florida. We have offices in Texas, Colorado, Las Vegas, and California.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. We've got, and I forgot our home office, Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice.
We have some really, really special developments in Nashville, and that's really where, Tim Downey started the company. And, you've seen those picture book towns, and that we have a flagship residential community there called West Haven. That's just like you go there and you're like, it's amazing.
Paradise.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. People love it. You talk to people about it and they're like, oh my god, this place is great. So we look at a couple things. One, job growth. We look at population growth, and we look at the tax benefits of those areas, because we want to be in, we want a lot of developers like to follow around some other developers and be the second guy in the market. We really search for properties that are, at the corner of Main and Main in established neighborhoods. And we're a firm believer that if you deliver and build an amazing product, people will want it. Mm-hmm. It's like a restaurant. You build a great restaurant and deliver great service and great food, people are going to come. And, it's no different than housing. It's about service and providing a great quality product. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a market that's got good job growth, it's got population growth, and it's got, tax incentives or a tax market that makes sense. Right now we want to be in the Sun Belt cities. Mm-hmm. The problem there is a lot of those cities, the barriers to entry are, non-existent. Anybody and everybody can, So we're very, very selective on our sites. We want to be in the best locations.
You're not trying to build a new area then. You go to the nicest area and you want to build the best product in an area that's already established.
That's right.
Gotcha. Talk a little bit about what are some of the things you guys have in coming up in Philly? You have another project, right? That's getting ready to start, right?
No, we've got two projects, two other projects besides the Laurel. At 1620 Sansom Street,
right?
We've got a 28-story high-rise there. It's 3 blocks from the Laurel. Between 16th and 17th, it's an amazing project. That area of the city, is a block and a half, 2 blocks from Rittenhouse Square. And it was really, really underutilized. We bought an old, parking garage that, was probably 60 or 70 years old, and it was pretty beat up looking.
Mm-hmm. No one was really using it either, right?
Yeah, it was just a very bad design, bad basis. It was hard to maintain. Had these 2 big, huge, spinny things that you had to drive up. Yeah. It was hard. It was really hard to park in. And we were able to, during the pandemic, we bought that one. And we're putting 254 apartments there and, 25,000 square foot of retail. We're topped off on that one now. We're celebrating the topping off next week. So we'll be delivering that one and, and inviting new residents in probably this time next year.
Nice.
Yeah, we're real excited about that. And then a couple months ago, we broke ground on the southeast corner of 5th and Spring Garden, right across from Silk City and Yards. We've got a great project there. It's going to be 324 apartments, so and about 15,000 square foot of retail. So,
nice.
We're really bullish on that area. In the next 5 years, you won't even recognize the Spring Garden corridor.
Yeah. Are you guys still actively buying right now?
We love Philly. Mm-hmm. I live in the city.
That is going to be our next question, by the way, is what is the case for Philly? Why are you investing so heavily here?
Philly's a great city. It's always gets a bad rap, the Philly shrug, everybody talks about it. A lot of the developers here purposely, Philly's gotten a bad rap, and they don't tell everybody about how great it is because, it's the people here like to sort of keep it a secret because you're able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, they're just saying it's Philly's not as bad as the citizens say it is, as Philadelphians say it is.
100%. That's the truth, and it's weird to think about. But you talk about the people outside the city or outside the region. You're you tell them to live in Philly, and they're like, oh God, are you all right? Yeah. They nobody hears anything positive. About the city of Philadelphia and other cities. So. They don't understand. I think they understand the sports. I think they understand the sports because, right now, everybody's doing great with the Phillies and the Eagles. And
it's a good time.
But, we've got an amazing food scene. We can be in New York in an hour and a half. We can be at the shore in an hour. You can be in the Poconos in an hour and a half. You can be in D.C. in a couple hours. So, no matter where you want to go. I always laugh and tell people when they fly into the airport, he said, once you land, text me, and I'll come get you. And, I don't even leave my house until I get the call because I can literally leave my house and be at the airport in 15 minutes. By the time they trucked all the way through, it's there. So, it's just so accessible. And, our food scene's great. The people are great. They're original. They're authentic. Our food, the culture here, it's incredible.
Authentic, I think, is a good way to describe the city, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm interested in terms of Southern Land. Were they in Philly before you joined, or walk us through when you ended up joining Southern Land and kind of the reasoning for that?
So Yes, the Southern Land had the project in University City, 3601 Market. Mm-hmm. So that was their first entry into the market. And interesting enough, at my previous employer, I had this property, the Laurel property, under contract.
Whoa!
So
you came from Toll Brothers University, right?
Yeah, I came
just
from
heard about Toll Brothers University.
Yeah, I was at Toll for 12, 13 years.
Mm-hmm. So they had this under contract.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and this project was my nemesis. It was like the Moby Dick for me for like literally since 2008. Mm-hmm. Like I helped them, worked on the pro forma, during the initial offering from the parking authority.
That's crazy.
And
got your redemption.
I did. But when my previous employer decided, the seller would not agree to a zoning contingency, and that was pretty important to Toll, and so we ended up dropping the contract, and that's when Tim Downey and Dustin Downey and Brian Sewell came in and got the property under contract, and I started fostering a relationship with Southern Land Company because at that point they really didn't have a huge market presence, and they'd never done condominiums before. And that was all. That's all that I ever knew. So,
this wasn't their first condo project, was it?
Yes.
Really?
Wow. This is their first condo. And they've done for sale projects in other cities, but it was more, single family estate homes. Yeah. It'd never been a condo project. So after a couple years of fostering this relationship, and then I made the decision to leave Toll Brothers. My first call was the Southern Land Company, and 3 months later, I was a full-time employee. So, working on this project, which is
nice.
which is great because.
Let me ask you this: like, why not try to start your own thing? Why decide to go with a big, massive company like Southern Land?
When I left, that's what was my goal. My goal was to start my own company and I spoke to some friends, and I said, listen, I want to go back after this project with Southern Land. I'm going to raise the equity. I want, can you help me? And they're like, yeah, whatever you need, we'll support you. And I went to Southern Land and said, hey, listen, I'm no longer with Toll. I've raised the capital. I still want to, be a JV partner or buy the condo portion of the project. And they're like, what are you talking about? You, Brian Emmons, like a person is going to, so
a person.
Yeah. Like I didn't have a company. Right. Yeah. I didn't have a company. I just left, and, and it took a few months. And while I was doing, talking with Southern Land, I was looking at other opportunities. I was looking at some smaller deals in Fishtown. I was looking at deals in Northern Liberties. But the crazy thing about development is it doesn't matter how big the project is. The steps are the same.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is the amount of commas. And so, I was pursuing these other properties, and, the stuff happening in Northern Liberties and Fishtown. The competition's crazy.
Yeah. It's insane.
It is. It's really hard. And as, getting into it, I was looking at these, and the risk that I was going to have to take on some of these projects really didn't, I wasn't excited about it. And then, Tim and Brian and Dustin made me an offer I couldn't refuse to join them here. And this is an iconic location. And, you walk around the square and you look at those buildings that are here, and they've been here for 100 years, and they're going to be here for 100 more. Yeah. And to think about having the ability to build a project on Rittenhouse Square in 200 years, it'll still be here is pretty exciting. So I couldn't pass up the opportunity.
Yeah. Just the opportunity to leave your fingerprints on sort of an iconic project like this is
absolutely.
Yeah. So was the Laurel a big piece of your reasoning for joining Southern Land then?
Oh, it was the only piece. It was
the
reason. It was the reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of opportunities. When I left, I had a lot of folks call, say, what are you going to do? Let's chat. And I had a lot of offers to join other organizations, and this was one you just couldn't pass up.
Yeah, totally.
So with Southern Land, when they bring you in, they've never done a condo project before. They say, "Hey, Brian, we want your help on this. Be the VP of Business Development." What's that autonomy or that structure look like? Like, how much independence were you given on the project?
Great question. So a lot, really a lot, especially when it comes to the condo portion of the project. We've got internally, we've got a lot of really, really talented resources, and we're structured different than a lot of developers. Inside our company, we have our own architecture department, our own planning department, our own interior design department, our own landscape company, our own landscape architects.
Whoa.
We have our own
Each
greenhouses.
of these is like a massive company.
Yeah, yeah. But the interesting thing is, we don't design all of our projects. Instead of me, meeting with the interior designers and making the selections for the light fixtures, we actually have interior designers that do that. So I have input and make suggestions, but we have a lot of resources inside. They help on the floor plans. They help work with the architect on the outside of the building and what it's going to look like and the materials and the colors. So that's a great resource, because when I was at Toll, I made all of those decisions.
So you actually hire an outside architecture firm to do the architecture work here, and then you have an in-house architecture firm, for lack of a better word, to work with the out-of-house architecture firm.
So it sounds like
they help manage them and help. We look at their, the unit layouts, and, we make a lot of changes. I mean,
so are they making more of the final decisions essentially, and you're kind of just checking off on it?
We meet it together. So what'll happen is they'll look at it and they'll make changes and recommendations, and then they'll send it to us, and we're like, yes, that makes sense.
Pretty collaborative.
No. Yeah. But it comes a lot, well before there, we're studying the market and we're looking at what size the units should be. How should they be laid out? What's important to that unit? Should we, when you look at our condominiums, our smallest condominiums, 1,750 square feet. It's a big condo.
Yeah.
That's a big condo. You know why?
It's a 2-bed condo, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a 2-bedroom. There's not a lot of $1 million 1-bedroom condos. Think about that. When you're on Rittenhouse Square and you want a condo, you want to put out $1 million for 800, 900 square foot condo.
Yeah, even if you're by yourself, you want an office or
something.
Yeah. So it just made sense. And when you look at the comps and the highest and best use, it just makes sense to do.
So it sounds like the in-house architects kind of get in on the game of during the analyzing phase to really determine what you want to build.
Oh yeah, they walk before we meet with the architect, we're walking the comps. We know what we want to build. And, we're giving them
with your architects.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we give them very clear direction, and then our architecture team helps manage the architect.
Really cool. It sounds like just everything I'm hearing. They talk about intrapreneur versus entrepreneur. It sounds like you're almost operating your own business within Southern Land, and you're still maybe the final say, but you're running a lot of these things within the project.
I make recommendations. Tim Downey, Brian Sewell, they're the final say, but they've gotten a lot of trust in me. And
for instance, this project, you're sort of running this project,
yes,
collaborating with all of their teams.
Yes, and we have a great development team. These big projects take an army of staff.
People can't imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty big. And then,
you said every inch has had a designer's touch here.
Oh, the amount of details,
dripping chandeliers and the wood wallpaper.
It's crazy when you think about the amount of details that goes into a 600,000 square foot structure. It's massive,
mind blowing for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of talking to some of the younger developers that are maybe watching or listening, do you recommend joining a bigger company first and being part of that, or starting out on your own so you can kind of see everything? Have any advice there? Starting out
nobody starts off with a project like this. So, everybody, I know a lot of really successful people that started off by themselves, and they started off doing, flips, residential single family flips, townhome flips. And then, that grows into, a couple units, and then 4 units, and then 8 units, and then 20 units. It really depends on what your goal is and, what you're looking for, in life, because these projects are great. But, I tell people all the time, I go on a lot of vacations and take vacation, but I'm always working. Mm-hmm. I don't have a job. I have a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Every single night until 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock. There are Sundays here recently. I was on the phone at 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. You sort of just always have to be available.
It's not I've got an amazing sales team here. We got an amazing leasing team, an amazing operations team. Just building these, and you think about all the touches in here. So from day one, you've got to pick every finish. You've got to name the project. You've got to create your marketing collateral. You got to create your website. You got to create your branding. The amount of decisions and details, and you surround yourself, because my job is really as a conductor of the orchestra. I mean, and surround yourself with amazingly talented people to do all the heavy lifting. But
it's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
Has your process changed at all in terms of like maybe going back to doing something on your own, or do you like having this depth of a team behind you?
Oh, it's great having a talented team. My number one focus right now is growing business, looking for our next opportunities, building relationships with landowners and people in different cities. And, our goal right now is to find more, opportunities from Boston to Florida.
Only trophy assets.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Only winners.
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest part, even on a downturn market. In a downturn market, where do you want to be? And, when things are tight, people still want to be in the best location.
And the radius gets smaller, I think, when the market has a downturn.
It is, but it depends on the inventory that's in that market, because what happens is, if, we have a downturn here and there's 5,000 units being, built in Northern Liberties and nobody's moving into the city, like, they've got mortgages to pay too, so they're going to be lowering their rents and giving people an opportunity. But there are people out there that doesn't matter what the rent is, they're not living in some of these other outlying neighborhoods. So
totally,
if you build an amazing product in an iconic location, you're always going to have tenants. So
that kind of brings us to what most people, I think, in your position think is the most annoying question ever. But what is your predictions for the 2023-2024 real estate market?
I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people that have cash. We've got rising interest rates. We've got rising cap rates. Construction costs have continued to climb. I think those are going to actually come back down. But, developers...
From a material standpoint, or labor, or both?
Both. It's gotten out of control.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
It's gotten out of control. So, there's a lot of deals that people have been working on for a year or 2 years that the metrics just don't work in.
Yeah.
They made assumptions that rents were going to continue to grow, that construction costs were going to make stable, that their interest rates were now lower than they're going to be, and their exit cap. If they were planning on selling these assets, they were hoping to get a 5 cap, and now it's going to be 7.
Oh God, that's a heavy correction.
Yeah, when you think about that.
Yeah. Wow.
They're not going to be able to get a construction loan.
So what do you do in that position if you're someone like that?
You sell the asset.
Yeah.
If you can't, you
potentially lose some equity, and you sell the asset for whatever it's worth now.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we really think there's going to be a lot of those out there.
What is your guys going to be? We always ask this question too. Is like, in a slowing market, what is your strategy or really advice for how to plan during that or operate? Like, how are you guys looking at that?
Our goal right now is to do less deals in better locations, deals that make sense. There's a lot of folks out there that are using institutional money that feel like they have to do a deal. We don't want to ever be in that position where you feel like you've got to do a deal. We want to be very methodical about the locations we pick. We want to be very conservative with the assumptions that we make. And we want the best locations.
It's funny you say that you don't want to have to do a deal. We just released the episode today with Carl Dranoff, and he said the same thing. He said, never put yourself in a position where you have to do a deal. So how do you make sure that you avoid putting yourself in that position?
By, there's a lot of fee developers out there, guys that are using other people's money, OPM, and, they're looking for a way to pay the bills. And those are the guys that, feel like they have to, do a deal. Since we're using our own capital, we're better sitting here stockpiling it and look for opportunities that just make sense. So,
yeah, I know you talked about location as a prime, factor in your strategy and your investments and what you're looking at. What about the type of asset class? Are you focused on, condominiums, apartments? Is that pretty much it for you guys in terms of that? I mean, I know that's a big class in itself, but like, is that really where you guys are focused on?
By and large, yes. We're looking for multifamily, mixed use opportunities, and we're really market driven. When I say that, I mean we look at what does that market need. Whatever market you're in, whatever the project is, is it condos? Because we'll do condos. If it's in Florida, we'll definitely do condos. If it's in Charleston, South Carolina, we definitely do condos. Mm-hmm. But if we can underwrite it and we can make apartments work, and we can keep a generational asset in a great place in Charleston, South Carolina, absolutely. But we like to look at every single location and figure out what's going to make best. We last couple of years, we built a great project, an office project in Boulder, Colorado. We sold it to Google Maps before the project was even done, and well over pro forma. So,
Google Maps.
Google Maps.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
what
Boulder,
do they do with it?
It's their office.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, it's their office. And in Boulder, Colorado, it's a very difficult market to get entitlements in. So took us a while to do it, but once we got it, we're really, really happy with the outcome there.
So you hire local people to navigate that process?
We'll hire local experts, legal experts,
like expediters and lawyers.
Lawyers. I mean, in every single market, you need somebody that's entrenched in that market that knows the players that help you navigate, through the process.
Yeah, what were you guys going to do with that before you got approached by Google?
We were going to rent it to whoever wanted office space.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and when they came in and we were just going to rent it to somebody, and they came in and said, no, we want to buy the whole building.
So I don't know if what your thoughts are on this question. I ask everyone because it's something that I'm currently struggling with. I'm about 5 years into development, starting from zero, right? Started with like one single family flip. Now we have like 30 units under construction. So we're in the beginning of our career. And this is something that it's an obstacle I'm currently trying to like figure out how to navigate. How can you most efficiently manage short-term cash flow needs with this desire to own these assets long-term, and create that generational wealth that makes all of us excited to get into real estate?
Great question. I like the fact that you used the term generational wealth, because that should be everybody's goal. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, the only way to truly do that is to find developments, build them, and keep them. Mm-hmm. But not everybody's in that situation immediately, because you've got to pay the bills and you've got this asset and you're like, okay, now what do I do with it? And, early on you're borrowing money, you're borrowing capital from friends, you're borrowing capital from institutional developers. That's the way that we started. Southern Land's like almost the perfect example of how to do that, because we started off, Tim Downey started borrowing money from friends, and then, we got big enough that we, were borrowing money from institutional capital. And those guys are really, develop, build, rent, sell, and you do enough of those and you do them well, you get to the point where you make enough money that you can do it yourself.
So essentially like sell and like be okay with putting the generational wealth aspect on hold.
Yes.
And sell until you can build enough cash flow to be able to operate comfortably.
That's the only way to do it.
And then they have enough reserves that they're almost acting like their own financier, basically. Right?
Exactly. And then you create banking relationships with people that'll give you a line of credit, and they make money with loaning money. So you get to the point where they trust you, they trust your assumptions, your ability to execute. Because think about all the failed projects out there. Mm-hmm. There's a lot, and
totally.
You think about condominium. Most people don't have any idea how risky condo developments are. 10 Rittenhouse, great project, but you know what? It went into receivership, and there was an auction.
Really?
Yes, years ago. The Rittenhouse Hotel condominiums at one point, they had issues. The Ritz-Carlton, same. Waterfront Square, same. I mean, it's a very, very risky maneuver. Just
because it takes so long and values can fluctuate so heavily for something like a condo.
What was the magic number?
60.
60. You know how many condos the Ritz-Carlton built?
What was it?
Like 200.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It was like over 200. I don't remember the exact number right now, but When you build a condo building, that project at that price point, you're making the assumption when you look at the market stats, and that's all you got to do. You got to look at the market stats and say, okay, my price here is going to be, my smallest one bedroom's 700 square feet. So if I'm charging $1,000 a foot, $700,000. My biggest unit's X, and it's going to be priced at Y, and it's going to be $3 million. So you look at the market and say, how many projects have actually traded in new condo sales, and you look at it and you say, okay, well, I'm basically assuming in this one building I'm going to get 25 to 30% of all of the entire market trading. Doesn't happen.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen. So you look at it and you want to make you want to be very conservative. But you know what stinks? Working your butt off and losing money.
Yeah, totally.
So you want to be very conservative with your assumptions, and these projects, getting eaten alive by carrying costs and operation costs and condo subsidies is where you lose your shirt.
So the magic number 60 because of basically the percentage of market share that you have at that figure.
No matter what, you can typically sell pre-construction, before you even started, 10 to 15 units. And the bank's going to want to see that anyway.
And that's like a figure, like 10 to 15 units. You're not even saying like a percentage. It's just like...
At that point, you got to remember that would be 30%.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and then during construction, you get another 30%. So, you give the early buyers a discount for, helping, being a pioneer, and then, you raise the prices a little bit during construction, and then at the end, the people that, are walking it pay a premium. So, all of a sudden, people that, right now, for the first time ever at the Laurel, we can, a person can come on our sales gallery right now and we can deliver a home within 30 days. Until 2 months ago, that was never the case. So,
wow.
We've got 17 settlements under our belt, which is, about 25 to 30%. So we're really, really excited with where we're at here.
Wow. That's so amazing. 17 settlements done before you were ready to even deliver units.
No. So we started settling condos. The buyer, some of these buyers, bought over 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So the first settlement and the first move-in was December 31st of, 5 months ago.
Got it.
And now we've got 17 settlements, 17
in
homeowners.
that 5 months span. Yeah. Wow.
I want to ask one question before we get to the wrap-up phase. You were a former BIA president. We talked a lot about the positives of the city. Is there anything that would make you, there's an election coming up, all those types of things, anything that would make you guys, Southernland, not build in Philly anymore?
Ooh, I like that question.
Yeah, there's a lot that could happen. Yeah. You get the wrong mayor, you get the wrong policy. We love Philadelphia. I'm investing so much time in politics right now. I spend 2 to 3 hours every single day because I'm scared to death. There are a lot of issues out there that need to be solved, but you've got to do it in a way that makes sense, that you still create jobs, that you're still creating opportunity and economic impact. And people have got to feel safe. And, there's a lot of people out there that want to, have less police, and they want to have, replace police officers with therapists and take away guns and take away, the people's ability to actually feel safe. Because like right now, in a lot of pockets of the city, people don't feel safe.
Yeah.
So, we're watching the mayor's race very, very carefully because, we need, people in there that are going to make good business decisions for all Philadelphians. And, there's a lot of entitlements are a hard thing for a lot of people, but there's a lot of people out there that need help. And the poverty in the city is really, really sad.
Yeah.
You think about a lot of the kids that, have, a single parent family, and, they're working their tail off, and they're never home, and the child doesn't have mentorship. And, kids going to school hungry, and,
it's good for no one.
Yeah. It's not good for anybody. Every single person, needs to have a mentor and be able to feel safe. And, we've got to find solutions to those things that make sense. And, there's a way to do it. it happens all over the country. You've just got to have the right policy in order to do it in the right plan. So we're really excited about the opportunities that are out there, and we're excited about the future. But we're being guarded, and making sure that doing everything that we can to make sure the leadership is the right folks.
Gotcha.
Yeah, everyone loves to talk about the presidential election, but I think a mayor's race in our city has more impact on like your life or my actual personal experience here.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Besides the mayor's race, city council race is very important.
Yeah, sure.
We just had 6 people resign from city council to run for mayor, and if we get those seats filled with the wrong people, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We as developers, we can't have rent control in this city. We can't have it mandatory inclusionary zoning.
Yeah.
There are things and incentives. We need to build more affordable housing, and there's ways to do it. And,
do you think something like rent control, let's say rent control alone, you think that would tank the real estate market in Philly?
100%.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like, when people take away the ability for you to reinvest in your property, because, these buildings are huge. People beat them up. When I say beat them up, they live in them.
Yeah.
You've got to maintain them in order
Natural
to maintain
wear and tear.
Natural wear and tear. You got to replace them. You got to paint it. You got to replace the carpet. You've got to clean the trash room. You got to replace the trash chute. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into these buildings, and if you can't continue to, your expenses are going up every single year. And if you can't raise your rents and do the things that make sense,
building become less valuable.
Building becomes less valuable, and the money that you have, it just became at risk.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of other areas in the city that actually encourage you to actually develop and to build things in their city. And Philadelphia, unfortunately, does the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we like to wrap up each of these with the same 3 questions.
Okay.
So first 2, and I leave this sort of ambiguous on purpose, but what do you think, in your opinion, what is the best deal that you've ever done, and what's the worst deal that you've ever done?
Oh, the best deal that we've ever done. The best deal, it's got to be right now. It's got to be the Laurel. I mean, it's an iconic asset. How often do you get to build a 48-story high-rise, on the most iconic location in Philadelphia? And we're so proud about this. The Laurel. You know what the Laurel is, Josh?
State flower, right?
Yeah, that's the Pennsylvania state flower. So we're really excited about this property. And
My girlfriend's sister's name. Told her it was after her.
Oh.
Tell her you said so.
Yeah, keep letting her think that. What's the, I'd like to say that the worst deal that we've ever done, I've been very fortunate. I've never worked on a deal where we lost money.
Wow. It's awesome.
It's a good thing to put on a resume.
Yeah. And guys, I've lost a lot of deals too, because my assumptions were a lot conservative. There's a lot of developments out there that people have made a lot of money on that we looked at. I didn't do because I wasn't as bullish on our assumptions. And, there's really, uniquely talented, pioneers out there that have got, the ability to go into a neighborhood and build something really, really cool. We don't do that. That's not us. It's not what we do. We like to have a methodical plan, and our investors like that about us, because when we're out there and we're looking at opportunities, they know that, it comes down to basic blocking and tackling. And
sort of credibility for you guys because you stay in your lane, seems like.
The one thing I think, Josh, I've known you for a number of years. I think most people will believe that everything that comes out of our mouths is something that you can take to the bank, because, if we tell you something, we're going to either make it happen or bend over backwards to make it happen.
Sam Zell, I think it was in his book, he says, the best deal I ever bought was the one I didn't buy.
Yeah.
And he's talking about just not buying deals that just were not in his lane.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to, copycat Sam, because it is. I mean, there's a lot of deals that you looked at.
Truth to it, though.
Yeah.
But guys, timing is everything. There are deals that, that would never work now, that if you did them 6 or 7 years ago, you'd look like a genius. So timing's part of it as well. And sometimes it's, being conservative with luck that, allows you to hit a home run that actually gets you from using, institutional capital to your own.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So for our last question, we always ask everyone, if your entire network and all of your assets were taken from you today, gone, how would you restart today in Philadelphia? You can still know what you know today, but you just don't have any of your assets and you've lost your entire network.
Oh, that's an interesting, and it's really a hard question because, how bad, why did I lose everything? But I think,
this is more so like a non-practical question. Like God comes down and snaps his fingers and, you, Brian Emmons, are left with all your knowledge, network's gone, and you lost all your capital.
So that was the thing. The network's gone too.
Yep.
Because,
Gone.
You are what your network is. So you've got to start building your network first because, these projects, like I said before, you don't build them by yourself. And you don't, you need a lender, you need a title company, you need a surveyor, you need an architect. So, I would start small again. If you start small again, I'd go into some outlying neighborhoods because, you can't afford to build a high rise on Rittenhouse Square. You go to a neighborhood that makes sense and you start, doing one home again. And, you got to chip away at it. You'd like to think that, after one or two, you can say, well, I did this, this, and this, and you can get back to where you were because you have that experience. But, the competition in the neighborhoods is pretty fierce right now.
For sure.
You look at some of these opportunities, and those are the ones that I think are really going to come back around because I think a lot of people, look at people, I don't know what they think about, how much effort it takes to be a developer, but it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work. And a lot of people are dying, they want to be a real estate developer and they make really, really strong assumptions. They might overstate their rents and understate their construction costs and, understate the amount of time it's going to take to get a project done. But when you do that, you can get in trouble. And those are the opportunities that end up coming around. And, I might find one or two people that I think are really, really smart and hardworking people and try to partner with them. And, you look at what, a lot of these big successful companies have done and, you surround yourself with good, high quality people and you get there over time, but you got to prove it. You got to prove it.
So when you say you think opportunities are going to come back around, you mean like the oatmeal people? Like the same situation with them.
I mean somebody like in Northern Liberties that bought an asset.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like the regional smaller
they bought
guys.
it for too much, and now the numbers just don't pencil, and they have to walk away from their equity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome conversation. We appreciate you giving us a full hour, and now I'm excited to go walk around the building, check it out.
Thanks so much, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Guys, I appreciate you being here, and I wish you both the best of luck in everything you do, and I know you're both going to kill it. So
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Absolutely.